Hi, everybody. Welcome to Tea Time with Bunky. I did not want to turn that off. Did not want to turn that off. Um, let me I don't know. I'm trying to turn this all the way down. For some reason it don't want to turn off. There we go. There we go. There we go. Welcome to Tea Time with Bunky, everybody. I would like to thank all you guys for your patience over all of these last couple of weeks. It's been pretty trying, but you know what? God worked it out. Thank all my Tea Time with Bunky followers. Thank you all for sharing and telling a friend and telling a friend. I appreciate you all. I appreciate my TikTok followers. Continue to follow. Tell somebody if you need a good laugh. Bunky Bunk on TikTok. Tonight's episode, I have a special guest. His third appearance actually on Tea Time with Bunky. Bishop John C. Williams from Faith Alive Ministries. We're celebrating our heritage, and we're gonna talk about our foundations, and then we're gonna get a little bit more into it down the road for people that are someone else's foundation. So, without further ado, Bishop John C. Williams. Thank you, Pastor, for saying yes again.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. I'm honored.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because most of my shows, church shows, not church shows. I don't know what you would call them. You were the guest, and it always seemed like I didn't appreciate where I came from, right? But everybody that knows me know that my foundation is everything. So we'll get into that in a few minutes. For those that don't know you, tell the people a little bit about you.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I am John C. Williams. That C stands for Charles. uh,
Charles.
I'm named after my grandfathers, and I'm the pastor of Faith Alive Ministries. But many of those that come from back in the day know that I grew up in Greater Upper Room Apostolic Faith Church, my home church, where I served as minister of music and assistant pastor for a number of years until I went into the ministry, and until I went into the pastorship. And I'm married to the lovely lady Sharonda Williams, and I have 3 beautiful children. Jalen, my oldest, who is about to turn 19 this summer. Aaron, my youngest son, who is going to turn 16 next week, and baby girl Aria, who is 11 and is going to be turning 12 later this year. So I'm just honored to be here. I'm just a servant of the Lord, and I love doing what I do.
Wow. Heritage. I mean, you're not that much older than me, but when I was younger, it seemed like you were. So I've known you my whole life. Part of my heritage, foundation, your parents, the late Bishop and the Bishop Leon Williams and Evangelist Claudine Williams. Claudine, right? I never called them by their names. I don't know. You froze.
Did I freeze?
Yeah, I never called your parents by their names, so that's why I'm like Claudine.
Yes, it is
Okay,
Claudine.
no,
It
it's
was
always
Claudine.
Evangelist Williams, because the disrespect. Um, it's disrespectful to me to call elders and stuff by their first names. And we have my grandparents, Evangelist Lucy May Hinton and Deacon Charles. That's why when you said Charles, I'm like Charles
Mm-hmm.
Hinton. Um, and we'll get into the more of them, but like they laid the groundwork for who we are. I mean, you walk right into your parents' footsteps.
Yeah, pretty much. You know what I'm going to do while we're talking? I keep
Mhm.
talking because I'm gonna move around in here. That maybe my signal is what is causing a problem. And so everybody can walk with me through my house.
And now you're totally frozen. Up there you go. There you go.
Is it better? I'm gonna
Yeah.
walk downstairs and sit in my seat that I do my prayer from every Monday and Thursday, and that might make things a little bit better. Let's see
Yeah,
if that works. How's that? Is the signal better?
A lot better. I thought it was me.
Nope. There we are. We're good.
Yep, there we are. We're good. We're good. So tell the I don't know about you. No, well, it's different for you because you're a pastor. So people expect a certain flow from you, right?
Mm-hmm.
They expect a certain flow from you. But I've been getting lately, which is so funny to me. Like when people start to know me, they'll be like, "Oh, it explains to me why you act like you act, or why you do what you do." And when we was looking back, I don't know if you can compare the two, if you can compare them, because are you still a part of PAW, or did you leave PAW?
I'm not really a part of PAW anymore, but I
Mhm.
love PAW. I'm not officially a part of PAW, but I have no love lost. I love PAW, and I'll dive into that probably a little bit later. But it's my
Okay.
foundation. It's where I came from.
Right.
Where I cut my teeth.
Right.
And so we can dive into that probably a little bit later as we get further down into talking about that, because as far as I'm concerned, PAW is home.
Right. And for those that don't know, PAW stands for Pentecostal Assemblies of the World. That's what PAW stands for.
Yes.
That's our church, our spiritual foundation. Is that how you want to say it?
Yeah.
Where the people that came before us made us who we are. So talk about talk before because I can talk about my people all day, every day.
Mm-hmm.
So giving thanks to them for um the lives they lived, the examples that they set, because they were examples. I mean,
Absolutely.
they're just great people. So talk a little bit about you get into it. Talk a little bit about your heritage from look, I forgot the name. What was the name of it? Greater Upper Room. Greater Upper
Made
Room.
up a room.
Yes.
Well, here's the truth is that I have connections. I have connections not only with Greater Upper Room as my home church, but also King's Chapel in Monticello,
Mhm.
under late District Elder Jesse Wren, and Church of Jesus in Ellenville, District Elder Giles,
Yep.
and
Giles B.
so
Hughes. Giles B. Hughes.
Giles B. Hughes, District Elder Giles B. Hughes, and so I what a lot of people don't know is my mother, when she moved back to New York, from West Virginia, she was in Ellenville, and she was a member of that church there,
Mhm.
of Church of Jesus Christ, and she was the piano player. And she's the one who started back in the day. She's actually the one who started people like Donnie
Donnie Patterson. Shout out.
Patterson, and then she's the one that started them on the piano
Oh,
years
wow.
ago. My dad, of course, was assistant pastor at King's Chapel under District Elder Wren, and so the two of them came together, and of course they met and married, and history was made. Middletown was my mother's hometown,
Okay.
and so they came and they began ministry here in Middletown back in the 60s, back in 1966, and started a church called the Upper Room that used to be on the second floor of old train station called the O&W station here in Middletown. And that began Upper Room, and it transitioned from there to Cottage Street, and from Cottage Street to 27 East Main Street, and then from 27 East Main Street to 1 Linden Avenue, where the church is currently there. In 1982, bought that building uh, and moved into that building. And so my parents, uh, Bishop Leon Williams and Evangelist Claudine Williams, were the founders of that church. And for many years, they served this community and served. And of course, my dad served in the council. My mother served in the council. They served in the national. Dad was the lay director for the northeast part of the country for the Bishop Board of the Pentecostal Assemblies of the World, and held that position for a number of years. My mother was the missionary president of the New York State Council. My dad was the chairman of the New York State Council. I was the young people's chairperson of the New York State Council.
So
At one time, we were all serving.
Mhm.
And they gave us a great legacy. One of the things that my dad always made sure that we knew, and he was real old school at one point, because he came from out of Bethlehem Temple, Greater Bethlehem Temple in Detroit, under Bishop Samuel Hancock. And Bishop Samuel Hancock, of course, was the founder of the Pentecostal Churches of the Apostolic Faith, PCAFF.
Right.
To which now I'm going to give you some history. We were all PAW at one time, but once Bishop Hancock started the PCAFF back in the 60s. That's where Mother Finn and some others went with Bishop Hancock, and so
that was a split.
And that was a split. That was a split of the organization.
Okay.
But nevertheless, always still family.
Right.
And so, we've had great fellowship here in the Mid-Hudson area between those various apostolic churches, and out of that, many other churches have come. From out of Greater Upper Room was born Holy Deliverance. Holy Deliverance, Pastor April Burke, was started by her father, District Elder Douglas Gibson in Newburgh. Amazing Grace Church, started by the Laytons, and then all over the country, churches that came out of these various churches from here in the Hudson Valley, all the way going upstate and to Alabama and to different parts of the country, all over. So we've been given a great legacy and heritage, through our parents, our grandparents,
church family.
Say that again.
And our church families, the people in the church. That's
why we're all so connected.
Yes.
No matter where we go or what organization we're in or not in.
Right.
The one thing that we've always done, we stay connected.
Right. Now, growing up, I can honestly say I saw how the people from our heritage, how they helped each other, right?
Yeah.
I remember when the first Sister Hughes was sick, and you would watch Elder Hughes and the women of the church care for her, right?
Mm-hmm.
I remember, because this is where I'm going with this. The missionary departments, well, not even missionary departments. Let's not even get there yet. When Elder Hughes got sick, right?
Mm-hmm.
When he got sick, I remember watching Deacon Pearson. Well, from my church, I'm sure there was other men, but
Right.
Deacon Pearson and my grandfather go take care of him because it became too much for Evangelist Viola Hughes.
Mm-hmm.
I was young. I didn't know much about dementia and all that. So I didn't know really until I became an adult how it changes you, right? How it changes your personality. But everybody cared for each other. They would go to the hospitals. They would go to the, I'm learning as I got older what the shut-in meant. You know how they say that, going to visit the sick and the shut-in. They were there for each other. And they were there for friends and family members of church members that didn't go to church. They were just there for each other.
Yeah.
Um, but my thing now is there still a missionary department? Because I honestly, I've heard some things, not from a specific church, not, nothing like
I
that. But I've heard things that were like heartbreaking where people have said, like their family gave everything to the church, meaning their time, not money. We're not talking about money.
right.
Talking about their time and dedication, talking about the now. And they're unable to go to the house of God. That's what we call it, the house of God. Couldn't go. And nobody came to visit them. Nobody came to pray with them, you know. And I remember back in the day when they used to have service in people's houses when they couldn't come to church,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Does that still exist? That's one part of what we're going to talk about. That's
Okay.
the first. Does it, like, is it still the same, or is it just like whoever's popular get the hospital visits and the home visits? And because it's really heartbreaking.
I sincerely believe that I sincerely believe that it does exist, although this is a different age. If we go back, and look at what those that came before us, our fathers, our grandparents, um, back in that day, everybody that moved to this area moved here looking for a better life. Um, most of us, people of color,
Right.
um, our roots didn't start here in this area.
Mm-mm.
They came from other places.
Right.
Most of Monticello, is from Alabama. We from Fairhope, Brumley, down in the sticks,
Mhm,
Mississippi, Carolina.
mhm.
They came here for a better life because at that time, those were the hotels and the uh, the the resorts. They were all thriving with shows and things of that nature. That was this area, and so
Yeah.
you came to this area looking for a better life. So most of the people that came here, especially our fathers and mothers and grandfathers, and except didn't have a lot.
Mhm.
And so they came from a time and a place where neighbors cared about neighbors. From a time when everybody supported one another. Uh, you know, let's talk about the Hinton House.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
Hinton House had a bunch of kids.
Yes,
So
they did.
your grandfather was a hard worker,
Yes, he was.
and so back in those days, the men would go to work, and the women would work too, but they would be taking care of the house. But everyone supported one another.
Right.
Nobody had to go without, because if one person had something, the other family had something.
Right.
And so it was a different day and age when we. Um, it seems as though when life was more simplistic, when we didn't have as much, that we cared about each other more
Mhm.
because we empathized with one another and sympathized with one another. Nowadays, we're living in a time, and is that everybody has got more. Let's put it that way. We've been tremendously blessed.
Mhm.
But in that tremendous blessings, I think that, and this is just very in general. This is not talking about anything specifically.
Right.
But in that tremendous blessings that we've received, the reality is that we've also become a little more selfish. I don't know if that's the right word, but I would
It's the
say
right word.
a
It's the
little
right
a
word.
little more selfish, and a little more isolated,
Mhm.
and busy trying to maintain what we have. And so back in the day, the mothers of the church, there was a lot of hospital visits, a lot of things that you did of that nature, and we still do. There is still alive today. It's still
Mhm.
alive today. It's just that things are so different.
Yeah.
Things are so different now in this day and age. And to be honest, let's think about it. Technology has changed everything. I mean, back in the day, who would have thought that we would be having virtual church You know, we didn't have cell phones. We had the little twist phones, things with the little dial. You
Oh yeah.
know, now we can stay in touch with people with a phone call. You know, you can call a person up, or you can FaceTime a person. You can, so the days of I think that the days of going out is still there, but I think that it has shifted into other areas. And I'll add this, and then I'll shut up for a minute, because I'll add this is that life has become much busier. We don't really we don't really take time for the simple things in life. We're busy just being busy. Sometimes we're busy for no good reason.
Right.
And because we've become so busy, sometimes it's hard. Back then they made time.
Mm-hmm.
It was those are the days of sitting on the porch. Those are the days when our families would come together and play Scrabble. Mm-hmm. We would go to each other's house, and that's how the church in the Bible grew, that they would go and break bread and fellowship together. Mm-hmm. That's how the church grew. But nowadays we don't have people over our house anymore. I laugh about my brother, Pastor Mike, who's the pastor of Greater Upper Room. I laugh about him because my dad used to say, I'd never been in Michael's house. He might have a whole family up in there that I don't know about, because and I could never go. I had to call him before I could go to his house.
Oh my God.
But Mike knock on my door, knock, 10:00 at night. Hey, what's up? But back in the day, that's what we did. We spent time together.
Right. That's funny. That's real funny. You got to do better. You got to do better. Is that something? I mean, because that's really, if you think about it a little bit, it's kind of sad, because you have some of the older people now that weren't old then, but now they're getting older. The church is getting older, right?
Yeah.
And some of them don't know how to work a cell phone. Some of them don't know how to deal with the technology and stuff today. We have like I'm thinking old sisters in the church, because most of the people in the church were sisters. Let's keep it real. Like mostly female. The churches were mostly females. And you see, well, I see like some now that are sick, right? And the sisters back in the day, they used to go to clean their houses. Like you said that they don't do things like that anymore. Should it be taught? Should there be like a certain class in the church to teach people to stop being so, they should be reminded, right? It should be, there's two people I'm thinking about that do that, because that's just what was instilled in them, But
can I
absolutely.
Let's be straight for a second, because here's the reality. Here's the reality is that as the elder saints are passing off the scene, we've got a whole generation of people that we missed, because a whole generation that slipped through because they were too busy running away from the rules of the church, in order, and running away from the church, because we felt as if we were we talk about legalism and all that different stuff. We ran away from the things that we felt hurt us in the church, and we didn't pass a lot of that on to the next generation. And so now we've got a generation that doesn't. Mothers in the church, there's no right now, there's very few, but there's very few mothers like we had in the old days of the church. So the
sat on that first pew.
Right. It doesn't. That part of it just is very rare, and it doesn't exist. But the things that you're talking about, are things that the mothers and that the sisters would pass down to the young people. They would pass down to the next generation. And that's in any culture. You pass it down so that they learn about the heritage, that they learn about the things. We very rarely had that. So now we have, the mothers in the church. And I'm probably about to get myself in trouble, but the mothers in church, you can't tell the difference between the mothers in the church and the young people, because the mother's trying to keep up in their dress with the mother, and I'm not,
No.
I'm not the legalistic person. I'm not the whole legalistic person. I don't, I understand the new day, the new age. I understand all of that. But the reality is we're not sharing anymore. We're not teaching. We're not teaching to the point. We're not stopping. We're not telling these young girls or these young men that what you're doing is inappropriate, or what you're wearing is inappropriate. And I'm not talking about wearing a skirt all the way down to the floor. That's not what I'm talking about.
Right.
But even mothers helping young wives in how to with their marriages, getting good advice in their marriages, and brothers helping young men to know how to. Nowadays, the young people think they know everything, and that's not a jab at the young people, because they do know a lot.
Yeah.
And they've seen a lot more than we've seen. But the reality is that we've got to have somebody to teach us.
You hit the nail right on the head with all of that. It makes so much sense. The generation that got lost, because like some of them, me, were trying to run away from the rules. We felt we were always told more of what we can't do,
right,
or versus what we can do. So nobody stayed and really, and there was nobody there to teach these people, but they see it in their families. Some of them saw it in their families, So it's like, what do you do when you see that older church member that's now dealing with some sort of mental illness and running amok, right? You see those old people, that the older saints that are now homebound and longing for prayer service in their house, but nobody comes out to them. And some of them I've heard things like, my family member literally died of a broken heart because they missed church so much and nobody reached out to them. So you know what I'm saying? Like things like that. Like how can you correct that now? Like what? There has to be a way.
We have to get back to. We got to get back to basics. We've got to get back to the place. Mr. D. Taylor says something really powerful. He says that many times we're diminished. If we be honest, and I don't know any other way to be. Sometimes some of the blame that goes on the church is not necessarily always the blame of the church. It's not always the fault of the church. Sometimes families, they create that atmosphere where they don't feel welcome, or again, because of the hurt that people have experienced, or because of the misunderstanding in the church. A generation also doesn't want to be involved in the church, and so and then with this whole need of privacy, which I understand, I do understand. All in all, we're very private people. It goes back to what I said before about us being selfish, where people don't come to the house anymore, where people don't come. We don't spend time together. We don't do things. We don't fellowship together. We don't eat together. We don't. If we eat together, we're going out to a restaurant, or we don't break bread at the house where we cook, and we're not sitting down and taking a night where we come together and pray and play board games or things like that. We don't do that. Our children don't play together.
Right.
Our families don't. And so all of this plays into this whole scenario, is that we can blame the church sometimes, and I want to make sure I play it on both sides.
Right.
Talk about on both sides, because we can blame the church sometimes, but sometimes it's because we have not created a welcoming atmosphere
right
for the saints to come. And there is, and Sister D. Taylor just said it, because sometimes there's a lot of dishonor, there's a lot of arrogance. People don't respect they don't respect the older saints the way they used to. They don't respect the man of God the way they used to.
No.
They don't respect. There used to be a reverence. You said it earlier about something about using first names. There used to be a reverence. Back in the day when you would be in the presence of certain individuals, it was just like that, and it was just like that fear, and not the fear as in afraid, but the fear as in the respect that you have for them.
Absolutely. Right.
You didn't even do certain things in front of them. You didn't even make it seem like you were doing certain things in front of them, even if you didn't agree with them, and even if you didn't like it. And it's not like that anymore.
You're right.
So people don't respect. They don't even respect God anymore. I mean, they don't respect the house of God. They don't respect it. And I'm not trying to indict anybody. I'm just, at the end of the day, I really want to find a way that we can get back to the place where we begin to understand that we can't throw away our foundation no matter what. Because if you throw away your foundation, what are you building? What do you have? And that's why so many things are falling apart in this season, in this day and age, because we've forgotten our foundation, and we've forgotten where we come from. And if we're not talking about just the spiritual foundation,
it's just
the foundation of our families.
Yeah, because there's no family respect. It's like lost a generation. A generation got lost. That's what it seems like too in some families. That's what it seems like. But when you said, it was funny to me when you was talking about people not, going to people's houses. I remember growing up after church on Sundays. It was during service or that Saturday. Well, you really couldn't call because it was long distance. Remember, you used to have to pay long distance. It was like LML, whatever, long distance. Trying to figure out whose house I was going to for that little break. Because, we had Sunday morning service and we had Sunday evening. So it was like trying to figure out, okay, who house am I going to in between? Because we had that fellowship. We played together. Like, we were closer to our church family than we were like schoolmates and stuff like that, because we were with them more. So that needs to come back. And the respect the respect is lacking to this day. It doesn't, like, I call you Bishop, I don't like calling you John. Even teachers I call them Mr. and Mrs. by their last name. I'm not going to call them by their first name. It's disrespectful to me. So that's
still
absolutely.
I'm 58 years old, and I see some of my teachers, and I call them Mr. So and so, and they're like, no, call me by my. I'm like, no, I can't. I just can't.
Not today.
I wasn't taught that way. I wasn't taught that.
Right, and that's your foundation.
I wasn't allowed to even call my adult cousins by their first name. It had to be a tag on it, cousin Sam, cousin Barbara, cousin that. We weren't allowed to do that.
Yeah, that's crazy. But I'm grateful. I'm so and the reverence for the church. You're right. We used to have those ushers. That when you knew they were at the door, you're like, oh my God, so and so. I used to be like, oh my God, Sister Mark is at the door. Like, if Sister Mark was at the door, you knew you better walk a straight line. You better not pretend like you chewing gum. You better not what. We used to know that usher board line because you knew when you can act up, when you couldn't. And that's a reverence and respect for the church.
That's it.
But kids being kids, you get it, but you're still trying to look for that group. But it was that respect. You didn't go in church acting up, eating. You didn't have a bottle of water by you. What? In the sanctuary?
You weren't allowed to eat in the sanctuary.
What? Yes.
Don't chew gum.
You better... Boy, they'll walk up to you with them white gloves. Nothing more embarrassing.
Come on. I remember the days, again, those three churches, those 4 churches in particular, again, Bethlehem Temple, Church of Jesus in Ellenville, and King's Chapel in Greater Upper Rome. If anybody remembers, those are the 4 main apostolic churches in the area.
Yes, they were.
apostolic Pentecostal churches, and then of course you had the Church of God in Christ churches out in Newburgh, and places like that. Uh, all those holiness churches. You didn't go in there just any old way. In
No.
fact, there was a time my dad wouldn't allow. He didn't want any musician playing if they didn't have a shirt, a suit and tie on, or a shirt and tie. You can't come up here and play this organ unless you got a tie on.
Because you didn't look respectable.
You gotta you had to
got-
look
yeah.
your
You have to look your
best.
best. Absolutely.
And times have changed, and I get it,
Yeah.
and I understand the times, and I understand that we're trying to be more relevant, and I understand all of that. But I'm grateful for that foundation, and
Yes.
here's the thing: it taught me how to dress properly.
Mhm.
It taught me how to be able to navigate in every arena, no matter where I'm at.
Right.
And then if we talk about the good things, I mean, you played a song. You played a song earlier.
Yes.
Jesus will work it out. But I go back. I teach. One of the things that I teach to a lot of the young musicians in the area, and many of the young musicians in this area and around the country, because I served as the minister of music for New York State Council Pentecostal Assemblies of the World for 25
Yes, you
plus
did.
years.
Yes, you did.
And so many of the musicians call me uncle. I'm Uncle John, and so I teach them about the hymns. I teach them about the old songs.
Love the
I
hymns.
teach it, even though I know how to play, and we sing all of the new stuff.
Mhm.
But as I tell them all the time, if you don't learn these hymns, if you don't learn these old songs, what you don't know where you're coming from. You
Right.
really don't understand the foundation of gospel music and the foundation of I mean, there was I used to talk about. I teach the youngers, Apostle Younger and Pastor Younger in Ellenville now, New Testament Church of Jesus Christ. The same church, but it's
Just
New
change the
Testament
name.
Church.
Right.
They added to the name, and so. But I tease them all the time because I remember back in the day they used to sing that song. I've learned to pray in and out of season. And then they say, and then we go, prayer is the key, faith unlocks the door. And they would say, prayer will fix it every time. And that was the song. That was the song they used to sing back in the day with Albert Younger on the piano, and Donnie on the Donnie Patterson on the organ.
Yes.
Back in the day, Ben May on the bass. Back in the day, the days of people like Bishop Alfred Payne on the guitar, and
Yes.
Brother Sanabria
Yes,
on the
Deacon
guitar back in
Sanabria.
the
Yes.
days, playing the guitar back in the days of all the old. We used to do washboards and
Brother Clarence.
we said we used to church
Yes.
back in the day, and I
Yes.
cherish that. I cherish it.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Yes. 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 Those were. Oh man. I love how I grew up. I do.
Yeah.
I love how I grew up. You talk about the hymns and things. When I was younger, I didn't really appreciate them. But now I got a hymn book. I don't know where I got it from, but I got a hymn book in my I don't know
There
where
you
I got
go.
this hymn book from. But those songs of old, oh my God, they are our foundation. And if you get a chance, somebody find a hymn book and just go through that hymn book. And
Go back to those old hymns.
yes, the
You know,
hymns. Yes. Yes.
I was looking. The one thing that we've got to get back to is a place of caring for each other, and caring for
Yes.
people, and caring about where we came from, and reaching back and grabbing some of the everything that was old was not bad.
No.
And we talked about this before, but
Mhm.
you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Right.
And while we moved into new seasons and we got better understanding of certain things, scripturally and hermeneutically, we've got a better understanding. The reality is there was some good stuff that was happening that we we can ill afford to throw away. We've got to go back. It's to sometimes doing those old songs, sometimes understanding why why the saints talked about holiness so much, because it's a requirement. But we understood that holiness wasn't it. Now we understand more so that holiness is an inside work more than it is an outside look. And if you
Yes,
can get an
that's
inside
deep.
work, then you'll be again to see a manifestation on the outside, which again does not have anything to do about how long your dress is, or
Right,
whether whatever the case is. At the end of
right,
the day, we got to go back and grab foundation and build on top of that.
right. And you said, and it's crazy because I got a script. I got a scripture. Can you believe that? I got a
Come on,
scripture.
pull it out.
When you was talking about changes, I have it here. Hebrews 13:8. It says
Yes.
he never changes. He is just faithful, loving, and we can count on him to be the same yesterday, today, and basically forever. They say tomorrow here, but and that's something very important because you hear it. I hear it all the time. But the word don't change. This is, everything is trying to change. But no, 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 no. It's you're getting a better understanding, I think. No, God has never changed. He won't change. He is the same today, yesterday, and forever. He won't change. But it seems like it's more as of adaptation. We're adapting to our surroundings. You know, we're
Yeah.
not changing anything. So those
Revelation is progressive.
it's
Revelation is progressive.
mhm,
And when we understand this, from a scriptural point of view, Jesus the same yesterday, today, forevermore. He doesn't change. The essence of who God is, the essence of who Jesus is, never changes. The word
no,
never changes.
no,
But while the word never changes, we do. And we grow in perspective. I mean, Paul writes it like this. He says, when I was a child, I spake as a child and I
right,
understood as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things.
yep,
Not just putting away childish actions, but also childish perceptions.
mhm,
And so when as we mature, um, revelation becomes a relative to our maturity. It becomes relative to what we learn. Um, I can't. I have to. If I have an experience, then that experience now gives me more insight into. I don't. You don't know. Here's what the saints used to say: you don't know that he's a healer unless you've been sick. You don't know that he's a lawyer, or every lawyer, unless you've been in the
right,
courtroom. You don't know that he's a deliverer unless you've been. Yeah. You
yeah.
don't. You
You
don't know
have to
all
go
that.
through it. You
You got to
have to
go
go through
through
it.
it,
Right,
and that's
right,
revelation.
yeah,
And so the word is revealed to us every day that we live. And here's the thing: God wants us. He really wants us to respond to revelation of his word, and
mhm,
not to just one perception of his word. We gain a perception of his word and we think that now is the end all be all of it, when the fact
right,
that God says, wait a second, my ways are so high above your ways, you'll never understand it. But you got to keep growing. You'll never understand it. I'm too wide, I'm too deep, I'm too tall for you to be able to understand everything about me. But you got to keep growing in revelation, so that, and he expects us to respond to it and not say, oh well, um god is god is this. God is this, and that's what I understand now, because that's what I see. When God
mhm,
says, "Wait a second, I'm more than this."
right.
I'm sorry, I just went.
No, 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 no. I mean, and all of this goes back to our foundation, because in order for a house to stand, it has to have a strong foundation, and our heritage gave us that foundation.
Yes, it did.
So, we can most of the time, I mean, we all will bend and wobble or whatever, but in the end, when we're rooted in that foundation, we really don't break. We'll bend almost unbreakable, you know, but it's always there because the people instill these things in, and that's why I love them so much. Like my cousin Missy said when we were naming names, there's so many more names to drop. Like Sister Shirley Younger, sister, I don't know if you remember Sister Ethel Barnett, like even
Yeah.
Sister Barnett with her
Yeah.
wrong claps and all of these people. Like I'm
Uh,
naming from my
Sister Marks.
yeah, I mentioned Sister Mark. Oh,
Sister Mark was my babysitter when I was a baby.
Sister Ruth Marks. I can
Sister
see
Ruth
her
Mark.
face now. I can see her now. I can see that choirs marching in or whatever. But they all everything they took the time to feed us and make us grow. And it's just like I love that. So there were times like after my show with you and your brother, um, Pastor Michael Williams, you know, I felt guilty. I'm like, it seems like, I'm bashing the church and my people, but no, I love those people so much, like because they made me who I am. They made me, as somebody said
We
to
wouldn't
me,
be who we were.
we
Who we
wouldn't be.
are.
We wouldn't be, and people don't understand me. This one girl said to me, it was so funny because we was having a conversation and she was naming some things. I'm like, I really don't know what that is, or I don't know what this is, or whatever. She's like, well, what rock did you were you under all of your life? And then when I tell my story,
Mm-hmm.
she's like, oh, makes sense. It makes sense. And I love it. I wouldn't change who I am or those people for nothing. Nothing.
I think of the old saints. We go back and again, we go back and we look at the old saints like District Elder Wren and Mother Mabel Wren, and
Yes.
and all of the saints that came up. Deacon Charlie Williams, and
Yes, thank you. Yes.
they you remember King's Chapel. Their signature song was their sings, and we'll go sweeping
They sang
through
that at my Uncle Chuck's funeral.
the city. See,
Yes, and
and
that
that
was
was their
1980.
signature song.
Yes.
That was their signature song. I
Yes.
mean, I won't go back. I won't go back. I won't go back. No more. No more. No. I mean, you go back and Greater Upper Room, and my parents and Deacon Florence Martin and so many others that uh, you know you know over the years that laid a foundation. And I certainly I miss their presence. I think about in the New York State Council, people like uh, Bishop Nelson and Mother Nelson in Utica and Syracuse, and Bishop Jones and Mother Jones, the parents of Bishop Noel Jones,
Mhm.
people like Bishop Seals and Lady Seals from Brooklyn, and Bishop Lockett from CPT, and who can forget Pop Walker, Bishop
Yes.
Walter Walker. I mean, those are the people that lay foundation, and I cherish them and cherish the lessons that they taught us and how they loved us. They were
Yes.
stern, but they loved us.
Yes. There was always love behind every lesson had love behind it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
every lesson. And then if you
Every
go back
lesson.
and you think about the churches, even the other denominational churches. I mean, very few men like a Reverend Matthews. Very few
Right.
people, like here in Middletown. Back in the day, Reverend Hodge and so many others. Over in Newburgh and throughout this entire region, and even nationally. I know everybody from here wasn't always connected nationally. I happen to have the privilege to have traveled nationally and got to know some of the greatest preachers personally, and count them as fathers in the faith and uncles and et cetera, and so such a great foundation. And and so I've been saying this for years to young preachers. Stop trying to step on top of those that came before us. Stop trying to
Mhm.
step on them to get higher.
Right.
Stand on their shoulders,
Yeah.
because we're so busy trying to tear down people, instead, and tear down people that came before us, and tear down what they taught us and what they did. They did the best that they could with what they
Right.
had.
Right.
Stand on their shoulders.
Yeah, they
And
passed the baton. They passed it. Now, what you do with it next is up to you.
what are you going to pass? What are you going
Right.
to pass on to somebody else if you keep getting mad about the person that ran before you and passed you the baton? They got the baton to you.
Right.
'Cause
You're not gonna win the
said if
race.
he remembers the chairman and the deacons or the pastor would come by our house middle of the week.
Yep. That's how it was.
Yeah.
That's how it was. And that was like my question. I'm like, what happened? Like, I don't know. It's like the older people, when I say older, like they're in their 80s or whatever, and like nobody goes to see them. I'm like, what happened to the missionary department? The ones that walk in there with all the white, the white missionary.
We don't have
Where?
we don't again, like I said, we don't have we don't have mothers
Yeah.
anymore. We're very
Yeah.
few. Very, very few. But we don't have mothers of the church anymore. Very, very few. And I'm being very general, but very
Right.
few. And nobody, in fact, think about it. We're living in a day and age with natural and nobody wants to claim their age anyhow.
I do.
Nobody,
I
no,
tell people all the
you
time.
know,
And
nobody wants to be, none of us want to be, I had said that I was gonna dye my beard. And then someone and then
they'll die.
one of my brothers in the gospel said, Bishop, don't do it because it's a sign of wisdom. And so
That's
I
what I
recognize
say.
that I'm the father. My dad is gone. I'm the father now.
Mhm.
I'm the father. I'm a father of the faith now, and I recognize that. And no matter how cool I want to be or how relevant I am with the young people, at the end of the day, I have to be a father of the faith.
Right.
And I have to share with them the foundational things so that they will have something to hold on to, some substance to hold on to as they move through, because the days are evil and they're not gonna get no better. They're not going to get no better in the world, but we have to give them something that will sustain them in these evil times.
Absolutely. Yeah, don't dye it. I cherish every gray. When people are like, you gonna dye your hair? No. I'm like, I've earned every gray. And this is a sign. I tell people it's a sign of wisdom. Hope you live this long to get it. I tell people that all the time. It's not much up in there. A lot of people I know that's my age, almost 52, have a lot more white than me. It's just my biology.
Listen, you're doing well,
Yeah.
and I feel like I'm doing well. I thank God for sustaining us.
Right.
Thank God for keeping us.
Right.
But this is the day. This is the day and age when we have to recognize that we are those mothers now. We are those fathers. We are charged with passing on. That's how history was passed on.
Right.
That's how legacy was passed on from generation to generation. We missed a generation.
Yeah.
We missed a generation. And so our young people now, if we be really honest with ourselves, our young people, most of the grandkids or great grandkids of our fathers, and most of them, they don't know nothing about church because they just, unfortunately, they missed it.
You're right.
Unfortunately, they weren't forced to. They weren't forced to go. I'm glad I was a drug baby.
Right.
I'm glad they drugged me to church. I'm glad they forced me to be in Sunday morning, Sunday night, Sunday afternoon,
Sunday school,
night, Sunday school, morning prayer,
Bible
study, Tuesday night, Thursday night prayer service, Friday night young people service. I'm glad they did it.
Yeah, I'm thankful now. I mean, my sons joke about it. They was like, "Ma, you always had us in church." Yes, I did, but we're not churchy now, which is bad. It's bad, but you know what? They got that foundation. When they talk about the Sister Ruth Bickham's and all that, they get a smile on their face because you have a foundation. Like, I got that foundation, and some people don't have those foundations, and I'm thankful. Can you believe it is 7:59?
Is it really?
Yes.
Wow.
This was so amazing.
Wow.
This conversation I loved every minute of it. I did.
I appreciate it. I loved it too. I've enjoyed. I could talk about the old saints and talk about the old days, You know, I just told I told Sister Betty O'Bannon, you know, because Mother O'Bannon comes on onto the prayer call every once in a while with Sister Betty, and I told her, I says, I'm coming to see Mother. And now that we're getting out of COVID, you know, now that we're getting out of COVID and we're starting to, and we're moving past it, that's going to be, that is my desire. I literally said to my wife, I want to go and take time to go visit the older saints around the state. I want to go up to Rochester and spend time with Bishop Eula Nelson. I want to go down to Bay Shore and spend time with Pastor Powell. I want to go spend time with Pastor Margaret Giles. I want to go spend time with the older saints, and just let them know I love them and appreciate them.
Right.
Especially the saints in this area. You know, there's very few of them that's left. Most of them have passed on. Mother O'Bannon is one of the few remaining older saints that we have here in the Hudson Valley from the old days of King's Chapel. And so I want to take time to go and see them and spend some time with them and just love on them and cherish them. And so that's my goal this summer, is to go spend time with them and just take some, just to let them know, and just to tell them thank you, really, just to say thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for, we know that everybody wasn't perfect, but thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for just loving us. We grew up, many of us grew up together. I grew up with your uncles.
Yeah.
I grew up with the Hintons. I grew up with the Masseys. I grew up with all of that. That's all, you know, the Armsteads is my blood family. You know, we all came up together in this area and in this region, and we're still here and we still love one another.
Right.
And it's time for us to really just get back to foundation and love where we come from and start to share it with our children.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
I share, I make sure, and I know it's time to go, but I made sure I've shared, I let my children see videos and hear tapes of their grandmother preaching, because they didn't have a chance. My mother passed 5 months after my oldest son was born. And so my children never had a chance to really know their grandmother. They knew their poppy. They knew their poppy and loved their poppy tremendously.
So sweet. Yeah, your
but
mom was.
I let them see videos. I let them hear tapes of her preaching and her singing, so that they would know the legacy that they have in front of them. And so I want to honor them. Thank you for doing this tonight.
Absolutely. Let me tell you before we go, I want you to know that when I was growing up, whenever your church walked in there, your mother and father and you guys, we knew that there was going to be singing and music all the time. So that's what, like, I connect your family to.
Yeah.
Like, either Bishop was going to sing and your mother was going to sing a solo and you guys were going to be in the instruments, or he would be sitting back, he would run some sort of service and your mother would preach. It's like, so that's what that, thank you guys. Well, your parents, thank your parents for that.
Amen.
So that part of my foundation that they put in there. So I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you so much. So
we appreciate you too, dear. You're doing a fabulous job here.
Thank you.
And keep doing it. Keep doing it.
Thank you.
And I want to say this. I want to say this. You know, say this to you, is that in this season, we talk about ministry, but every ministry is not in the pulpit. Every ministry is not in the pulpit, and every ministry doesn't look like what we used to think it used to look like. You've heard me say plenty times, we're the salt of the earth, but salt that stays in the shaker doesn't do you any good. You're applying yourself to the community, you're applying yourself to different things, and that's a building on the foundation that you've been given. You don't have to be. My dad told me one thing, and this released me to be able to be me. He told me, John, you can't be me.
Right.
He says, I've taught you everything. You go and be the best you can be. There's Mary Chisholm.
Yes.
Wow,
Foundation.
that's family.
Foundation.
But that's family.
Yes.
We all came up together.
Yes.
We used to, Sister Mary and the youngers.
Yep.
We talk about it all the time. When I was the Southern District Young People's president, we used to travel together. We would get lost together, going to district meetings. But we had so much fun and loved one another, and we would go and we would travel and get back late and be up early in the morning for service at our own churches, because we couldn't go to those meetings and not be
And then go to your exactly. You better not. You better not.
In the morning, you better be in Sunday school.
You better not.
Otherwise, you ain't going the next time.
But and that's not how it is. That's not how it is today. Look, we could just go on and on and on and on. People are asking for part 2, so we're gonna have to do a part 2 of this, definitely, because this
And what I'm
went
going
by
to do
too
is
fast.
I'll bring pictures. I have some old pictures. The next time we do a part 2, I'm gonna pull out some old pictures.
Okay, I can't. That's gonna make me cry. I know it. No, it's just seeing their faces. Because while we were doing this, I had flashbacks to their faces.
Me too.
It was beautiful. It was beautiful. So we have to end this now. We're definitely going to set up a part 2. We're going to set up a part 2 for this right here. And I thank you and I appreciate you so, so, so much. Thank you for your kind words. They mean more probably than you realize. So thank you for that. Everybody, tune in next week. Tune in next week. I have Miss Tamika Harris. That's the sister of the missing young lady, Shanice Harris. And actually, next Thursday, it's like God ordained it, because she was supposed to have been in, I think, my July show. And because I had a cancellation, I asked her to be in next Thursday, not knowing that it's 3 days from the 5-year anniversary that her sister went missing.
Yeah.
So this is going to be something. I'm looking forward to that. And
Another family that I've known for over 40 plus years.
And that's crazy. So everybody tune in next Thursday as I talk to Miss Tamika Harris. And we're going to be talking about her sister's love. She's her sister's keeper. So that's going to be next week. Once again, everybody tell a friend and tell a friend. Watch this show over. Share, like, comment. Eventually, I'm going to be like you guys. Bishop, we're going to have flashing things eventually. Eventually, I will. So you all have a wonderful, wonderful night. Be safe. God bless. Appreciate your elders. Thank
Always.
them. And I'm gonna do better with this too. I was thinking about going to visit our the older saints. Just our elders. Period.
Period.
A lot of them need somebody right now. So thank you all. Have a good night. Bishop, don't go nowhere. If you can stay
I'll
1
be
minute.
right here.
Okay.